It is Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. We are coming to you from the Glass House, the Murphy Center on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University, site of the TSSAA Boys Basketball State Championships. And we are coming up on the final game of the Class 1A quarterfinal round. We have had 3 games already completed to this point. We'll tell you more about what we've had go on as we get into the show, but we have got Harriman and Wayne County on the floor right now getting ready for their 2:15 tip-off to wrap things up again in Class 1A. We will continue with 4 Class 2A quarterfinal contests after that to close out the day. Tomorrow we will be back here as Class 3A and Class 4A quarterfinals take place, and we'll be here for Friday's semifinals across the board. So we are taking in a lot of basketball, Wade.
Yeah, Hoop Central here. Good to be with everybody on this glorious Wednesday, and you're right, Mo. Great week last week, and we're already off to a fantastic start here on the opening day. Class A, all but completed. 3/4 of the jigsaw puzzle is put together. We'll find that last piece here in just a matter of moments, and then the action just continues. Once you knock that one out, then you roll right in to the AA side of the bracket, 3 and 4 tomorrow. And then, as you mentioned, you kind of, if you can survive through tomorrow, then Friday and Saturday are a lot of fun, because then you really start thinking and, dare I say, dreaming about grasping and hoisting that gold ball.
Absolutely. A lot of fun. Always fun this time of year here at the Murphy Center. And for Wade and I in particular, always good to be back on campus. So that's a lot of fun. So much fun, in fact, that I got to jump on things last night. Went over to the Mr. and Miss Basketball Awards over at the Tucker Theater, kind of catacorner from here if you're familiar with campus. But after that, I'm like, well, I'm here. Might as well.
You were here late then, it sounds like.
I was here. I was here a little later than I'd anticipated. Yes, sir. I guess we'll get to it in the rundown, and we'll talk about it more as we go, because in our second segment, we'll be joined by Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media. Now, Joe is up in Dayton for the first 4, and I imagine he'll have a lot to talk about from there, but we'll get into some of what happened here as well. So looking forward to visiting with Joe Sullivan in our next segment. In the second hour, we'll be joined by Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City, talking a little NASCAR. We had a different name in the winner's circle at Vegas this past weekend. We'll check in with Heather on that, and we'll get ready for Homestead as well. So looking forward to visiting with Heather. We'll also talk some college hoops, some more college hoops, some coaching changes in addition to some actual games being played. We'll talk a little high school hoops, obviously, because we're right in the middle of that. We'll get into a little baseball. There was early baseball if you were stateside, regular baseball if you were in Japan, yet again today. Also got some NFL news to get to, or some notes maybe not necessarily news. And it is Wild and Wacky Wednesday. In the final segment of the show, Wade and I will bring you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe, and looking forward to doing so. So plenty to get to, plenty to talk about, Wade. So let's go ahead and get to it and get talking with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Lock and load, boys and girls. Time for the Wednesday rundown, but let's rewind it to scoreboard action from Tuesday night, and we'll kick it off with baseball, where Father Ryan fell to CPA. 5-0 was your score in that showdown. 8-0 was the victorious Ravenwood result versus Centennial last night. 10-0 was your score. Clarksville Academy knocking off Kirkwood. It was Clarksville 15, Clarksville Northeast 4. Coffee County 10 runs better than Loretto, 11-1 that final there. Columbia with an 11-0 win versus Smyrna. It was Community 6, Richland 5. Creekwood all over Lawson, 11-2. Culleoka winning a tight one, 9-8 versus Battle Creek. DCA topping the Middle Tennessee Monarchs, 8-1. It was John Overton 16, East Nashville nothing. Hampshire with a 12-0 win versus Frank Hughes. Brentwood 9, Franklin 4. Spring Hill topping Franklin County 10-9. High-scoring showdown there. Columbia Academy was all over FRA last night, defeating Franklin Road Academy 14-1. Eagleville wins over Friendship Christian 10-9. It was Greenbrier 6, Powell 5. Gulf Shores out of Alabama defeats White House Heritage 9-7. Hilldale out of Oklahoma defeats White House Heritage 6-3. Lebanon with a 5-3 win versus Gallatin. It was Macon County 8, Westmoreland nothing. Middle Tennessee Christian with a 10-run victory, 13-3 over University School of Nashville. Watertown with a 5-3 win versus Monterey. It was Mount Pleasant 4-3 over Cornersville. Nolensville picking up an 11-4 win versus Page. Franklin Simpson out of Kentucky defeats Portland out of Tennessee 20-5. And Goodpasture knocks off some out-of-state competition, defeating Pryor, Oklahoma 6-2.
Also, it was Beach with a 13-5 victory over Riverdale. Blackman by 2 touchdowns over Rockvale, 14-0. Rossview 10-0 over Montgomery Central. It was Murfreesboro Central 4, Shelbyville 2. Siegel with a 1-0 vero over Oakland. Vero Beach of Florida 6, Stewart's Creek 1. Independence 10-1 over Summit in the border battle down there in South Williamson County. Sycamore 4-1 over White House. Harpeth 10, Waverly 2. Providence doubles up Webb School 2-1. It was Yulee, Derek Henry's alma mater.
Come on.
With a 10-3 win over the Bobcats of Giles County. Come on, Double Deuce, ease up. East Hickman 18, Zion Christian 6. In softball action on Tuesday, Battle Creek fell to Mount Pleasant 16-1. Community with a 5-0 win over Blackman. Columbia Central in the Mid-State Classic. We talked about this earlier in the show yesterday. Columbia Central 17, Spring Hill nothing. Beach 11-0 over Gallatin. Lawrence County doubles up Collierville 12-6. Grace Christian out of Knoxville defeated Lawrence County 11-1. Lewis County with an 11-1 win over Santa Fe. Oakland 8, Siegel 3. Riverdale defeated Rockvale 2-0. Smyrna with a 6-2 win over Hendersonville. It was Stewart's Creek 13, Laverne nothing. Alexandria out of Alabama defeated Summertown 4-2. Summertown bounced back for a 13-0 win over Demopolis of Alabama. And finally, it was Westmoreland with an 8-3 win over Trousdale County.
Other scores from your Tuesday night. Boys soccer action. Forest defeated Battle Creek 5-1. Murfreesboro Central Magnet and Centennial played to a 1-1 draw. It was 3-2 favoring University School of Nashville versus Columbia Academy. Stewart's Creek picking up a 2-1 win versus Cookeville. Lebanon a 2-1 result versus Gallatin. Grace Christian Franklin 8 goals better than Middle Tennessee Christian. 8-0 was your final. 4-0 was the result as Oakland defeats Mount Juliet. Blackman topping Riverdale 2-0. Siegel and Rockvale playing to a 1-1 draw. Smyrna 1, Laverne nothing. Liberty Creek 6, White House nothing. And Zion Christian defeats Agathos Classical 10-2. We teased it at the start of the show here inside the Murphy Center last night in the opening round of the NIT. It was Chattanooga knocking off MTSU, and not one, not two, but 3 overtimes. 109-103 was your final in that one. Luckily, only 60 minutes played in Bridgestone Arena, and I say that because the Blues came in to Nashville and knocked off the Preds 4-1.
Boys basketball action here from the Glass House again in a Class 1A state tournament quarterfinal matchup that was a rematch from last year's state semifinals. And there are those that would tell you that that might have been a Saturday-type ball game. Chattanooga Prep with an 84-44 win over Santa Fe, knocking the Wildcats out. Congrats to the Wildcats finishing up 28-4. We'll have coverage of that game later at MainStreetMurray.com. And at 4 o'clock today in a Class 2A quarterfinal matchup, Loretto takes on Liberty Creek. Baseball action today. 2 bells. Oak Ridge takes on Oak Ridge takes on White House Heritage. Again, that's a 2 o'clock start there, so they are off and running. At 2:30, you've got East Robertson at Hendersonville. Possible doubleheader up in Hendersonville between the Commandos and the Indians. At 4:30, it's Franklin traveling to Brentwood. Christ Presbyterian Academy is at Father Ryan. At 5 o'clock, Riverdale is hosting Stewart's Creek. At 6 o'clock, Rockvale goes to Blackman. Also, Siegel is at Oakland. Nolensville is at Page. At 6:30, Independence hosting Summit. Vero Beach of Florida faces Mount Juliet at 6:30. Also at 6:30, Brighton and Smyrna or lock horns. Finally at 6:30, Gallatin is at Wilson Central. A 7 o'clock start for Goodpasture and Bayside Academy out of Alabama. Also at 7, Giles County takes on Knoxville Carnes. Greenbrier faces Payne Park out of Alabama. We have no time for Centennial at Ravenwood or Glencliff at Stratford.
Softball action getting underway at 4:30 today. John Overton is traveling to CPA. Santa Fe is taking on Spring Hill. That game is set to begin at 5 p.m. And at 5:30, Community is meeting Eagleville. Boys soccer action, light slate tonight, but Oakland is set to travel to Page. Similar slate for boys lacrosse as Centennial is set to travel to Oakland. That game gets underway at 4:30. Big night of girls high school flag football. Action getting underway as early as 4 o'clock. Independence meeting John Overton. Maplewood is taking on Page. At 5 p.m., Nolensville will take on Pearl Cone. Cane Ridge and Ravenwood will show down. It'll be Antioch versus Stratford also at 5. Other games at 5 include East Nashville versus Summit and Brentwood versus Whites Creek. Still more at 5. It's Glencliff versus Hillsboro. McGavock versus MLK. At 6 p.m., you can catch Hume Fogg versus Brentwood, Centennial versus Glencliff. East Nashville is taking on Hunters Lane. Cane Ridge is playing Lawson this evening. Antioch and Maplewood will tangle, and Franklin will also meet McGavock at 6 p.m. And then finally, capping that 6 o'clock window there, Mo, was Smyrna versus Murfreesboro Central Magnet.
One more at 6. Independence and Pearl Cone are playing at 6. At 7, Lawson faces Ravenwood, Hunters Lane, and Summit will meet. Also, Hume Fogg plays Whites Creek, and Centennial plays Hillsboro. Finally, at 7, Nolensville and John Overton will play. It'll be Franklin and Martin Luther King, Stratford and Page. And at 8, Murfreesboro Central faces Rockvale. At 9 o'clock in the association, the Memphis Grizzlies continue their West Coast swing, taking on host Portland. You can see that one on FanDuel Sports. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our rundown. Your top story brought to you as always by the fine folks over at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. Be sure and check out their delicious daily deli lunch options, as well as our hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10% at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill, Columbia, bringing you our top story. And, you know, we don't typically talk a whole lot about midweek college baseball games, but when a team was 20-0 and loses one, then we pretty well have to talk about it. Meet the Tennessee Volunteers, who dropped their first game of the season at Lindsey Nelson Stadium last night to the tune of a 7-6, 10-inning loss to visiting East Tennessee State. And East Tennessee State won it on a 10th-inning home run by Grant Gallagher. Grant Gallagher, who leads the country in home runs with 12 now.
12 dingers already?
12 dingers already. Maybe shouldn't have pitched to Grant Gallagher.
No, and you know, this was, I did see Wes Rucker talking about this last night on Bluesky. I mean, he said that ETSU, obviously, they're not, you know, we saw Tennessee, you know, they're capable certainly of dropping a game at any given time. Any program is.
No.
But when you pitch to Gallagher like you did, Tanner Franklin paying the price, said it reminded him of that home run that Ben Joyce allowed to Tennessee Tech a couple of years ago at a wood bat game that they played at Smokies Park. So the fact is, Tanner Franklin would love to have that pitch back, and the fact is that Grant Gallagher sent one into orbit and sent Tennessee into the loss column for the first time this season.
Grant Gallagher has 12 home runs. Gavin Kylan, the transfer from Louisville, has 10 home runs with the one that he hit in the 5th inning yesterday. So, you know, the ball was flying. I think ETSU hit at least 3 in the win. So a lot of long balls leaving Lindsey Nelson Stadium last night in ETSU's 7-6, 10-inning victory. Again, Tennessee falls to 20-1 with that loss. Yeah, East Tennessee State with 4 home runs on the night. Collins was the only one for UT, but let's see. ETSU scored first, scored a run in each of the first 2 innings. Tennessee picked up a couple in the bottom of the first, did not score again until the 5th on Collins' solo shot, and then one in the 7th. Took a 6-4 lead in the 8th before ETSU tied it up in the top of the 9th, and then again won it in the 10th. So, big win for ETSU. Now, tough loss for UT in the fact that it knocks them out of the ranks of the undefeated. But again, anything can happen midweek, man. If you've been around college baseball at all, you know that.
No doubt. And, Heather's going to be really peacocking when she comes and joins us here in the second hour after a big win for her local team there. And this is kind of a wild stat, too. Tony Vitello, after that loss last night, 6-4 in 10 meetings versus ETSU. So they don't all the way have UT's number, but they got something brewing up there over in East Tennessee, and that is a great win for them. Hopefully, best of both worlds, right? Tennessee, you don't really put a ton of stock into that. Especially as loaded as the SEC is, and you got bigger fish to fry there. But if for ETSU, maybe this is a little extra boost saying, hey, we can beat anybody on any given night, and maybe we'll set them up for some success down the road.
Absolutely. I don't think this is anything that Tennessee is terribly worried about in the grand scheme of things. But, yeah, this is a big win for ETSU. So congrats to them. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we return to the Glass House, where Harriman currently leads Wayne County 8-4, a little over 2 minutes into this contest, we will be joined by Joe Sullivan from Dayton, talking a little First Four. Stick around.
Step into the Lionel retail store at Opry Mills, Nashville, and you'll be captivated by all the magic of the 123-year history of Lionel trains. Whether you're already a train enthusiast or just getting started, Lionel will energize your love for trains. NASCAR fan? Come check out your local Lionel station to learn all there is to know about model trains and die-cast NASCAR collectibles. Visit nashville.lionel.com or call 615-455-9399.
Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Welcome back into Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. We're coming to you from the Murphy Center here on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University as Harriman and Wayne County are playing in your final Class 1A quarterfinal matchup here in the boys basketball state tournament. And we are pleased to have with us live from Dayton, Ohio, Joe Sullivan, talking a little First Four among other things. Joe, good afternoon.
Guys, how you doing? Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay, good. We're doing well, man. We're just taking in some high school basketball. You've been taking in some college basketball and going to be taking in some more here tonight. But
That's right.
The first four was a little feisty last night in terms of pretty good ball game in the opener and a proper blowing off of doors in the second game.
Yeah, very entertaining, close first game where Alabama State ran a full court play right at the end to get the ball bounced around off a few people, and they get a layup to win the game. Quite exciting and a thrill, a fairly well played game. And then you had North Carolina, who, as we all know, doesn't even belong in the tournament. I think we can all agree on that. And then they get their revenge on all the people who said that by at one point they were ahead by 40 points last night, and they just, I tell you what, they look like a Final Four team. That's what they look like. Now whether that they're going to continue to do that remains to be seen. And what is a lot has to happen for this to occur, but we could see Lipscomb, North Carolina, in the second round.
Now,
if Lipscomb upsets Iowa State and North Carolina beats Mississippi, both are possible. We would have a North Carolina-Lipscomb game in the round of 32.
You know what? What was your takeaway from the North Carolina-San Diego State game last night? I mean, was that just a team playing out the revenge thing all the way, or what was your and if that's the case, how far can they ride that?
Well, they can't. I think they played as well as they could possibly play last night. So that is often difficult to duplicate. But if they were to duplicate that, it's not beyond the realm that they could make the Final Four playing like that. I mean, they were totally dominant, inside and out. It was a really probably their best performance of the year, because San Diego State played poorly, but San Diego State is not a bad team, and they just really annihilated them. So it was really eye-opening, quite frankly.
It was not just an emphatic win, guys. It was a historic win. North Carolina was the first team ever in NCAA history to pull off all four of these in the same game. 95-plus points scored, 50% or better from the field, 50% or better from three with a minimum of 20 attempts, and 85% or better at the free throw line with a minimum of 20 attempts. We're talking about in the history of the NCAA tournament. That's the kind of level that they were playing at last night. I don't necessarily know, Joe, and I'm curious your take. It doesn't necessarily matter who was playing them last night. It could be St. John's with one of the best defenses in the country, but it felt like UNC was just clicking on all cylinders.
Yes, you're absolutely right. That would win. We probably have to put in the 90th percentile of college basketball games that it would win. Maybe the 98th or 99th percentile. They were going to win playing that well. Now, how much of that they can duplicate is the next question against Mississippi in the next round.
It's crazy. You know, those numbers that you just rattled off, Wade, and if you shoot 50% from the floor, 50% from three, and 85% from the line, you're probably going to score 95 points.
Yeah, they kind of all help each other in a way.
Yeah, no doubt.
But it was crazy. And I loved also at the end, right before halftime, Joe, when they bring Seth Trimble over, he's kind of ornery with Rothstein a little bit there when he's talking about the interview. But I did love the comment when he says, hey, we feel refreshed. We don't have a burden of are we in, are we not anymore. It feels in many ways like this is the first time in many weeks we can just go out and play basketball. And they certainly did, really putting the game away as early as halftime.
Yeah, and R.J. Davis was just out of this world. He was the best player on the court. And we know, look, he's an All-American caliber player. So I think he can play that well. He can continue that. Whether they can as a team would be the question. And I guess this is the talented team that everyone was hoping to see back in November. It's finally coming around.
UNC is already favored by 1.5 versus Ole Miss. You buying that, Joe?
I am. I'm not that high on Ole Miss. I think they're good. I think that's the gamblers the lines makers, are on to something. They're making them 1.5. I would not go the other way. I would stick with Carolina if there was. I might leave the gambling talk to you, Wade. I mean, I like to make a bet though. Which way are you leaning in that one?
You know, a tale of two things, right? I immediately saw the line last night and said, ooh, that's interesting. And everybody immediately is kind of seemingly, riding the high of what we just saw from North Carolina. I like to kind of go against the grain a little bit. I'm feeling like maybe now is when you potentially load up on Ole Miss. But we'll see. I mean, it does feel like, and this is wild, multiple things can be true at once. North Carolina could go on one of the craziest runs that we've ever seen from the first four, just considering how the circumstances they got in. But they could also, I think, clearly have not been in the tournament to begin with or shouldn't have been allowed in the tournament. So two things can be true at once, and that's going to be this ultimate kind of mind juggle for the next however many days that they're still playing, it feels like.
Yeah, they don't belong. They should have been excluded. But now they're here, and so none of that factors in. It's about the games now, and they're not the only. I'm glancing over at my bracket. The other sort of spread that's against the seeding is Colorado State is favored over Memphis, which is like it's 12-5 matchup. You don't see those too often either. So those are the ones where the sort of higher seeded teams, the higher numbers, or the gamblers, the lines makers think they should be favored. Those two games stick out.
Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. As we talk First Four, and speaking of teams that shouldn't be here, you're getting ready to see another one of those tonight up in Dayton, Joe. Conventional wisdom would tell you that, or certainly Jerry Palm of CBSSports.com would tell you that Texas probably shouldn't be in the tournament field either, but they are playing Xavier in the 11 matchup in the nightcap tonight.
15 losses. I mean, you got to draw the line somewhere, no matter who you play, don't you? That eventually you got to be responsible for winning some of these games. And it's disgraceful that they're in, and they're not even the last team in. And it is. Look, I've seen Texas play. They're inconsistent, and their record shows it. They have Trey Johnson, one of the best freshmen in the country, who's going to be in the NBA next year. So just like North Carolina, we could be watching later today, and Trey Johnson could be going 25-30, and they win. I mean, it's possible. But I think, I like Xavier going forward in this game because I just don't think Texas has proven themselves worthy as we reach the end of the season.
Now, let me ask you this. You said it's disgraceful that Texas is in. Who's the bigger disgrace, last night aside, Texas and North Carolina?
Well, I would weigh them equally. As that's a cop-out, I guess.
That's a little bit of smells like a cop-out there, Joe.
But I think the 15 losses, I think Texas is a bigger disgrace.
We could cherry pick stats all day long, but Texas has 7 quad 4 victories. Do the math on that. 12 and 15 overall if you take out those 7 quad 4 wins.
So then they're 5 and 15, right?
Yeah.
So they're performing.
Being the mid-major geek that you are, Joe, tell us about American and Mount St. Mary's in the early game.
Well, thank you for that compliment.
That is a compliment.
So how sad is this? I went and watched them both practice yesterday. And I think American, and I've seen American this season. I have not seen Mount St. Mary's. I know Mount St. Mary's is missing one of their good guards for tonight because of injury. And Matt Rogers is America's best player of the year in the Patriot League, 6'9" player. I think American's a really decent unit. I expect them to advance pretty easily past the Mount tonight. I'd like to see a better game, but I think American's pretty good. So I like them tonight.
Both coming in identical records at 22 and 12. I hope we kind of get what we saw last night in terms of that opening game because the Alabama State victory was an absolute thriller as they kind of, you touched on it, Joe, they kind of channeled, the Christian Laettner with the length of the court, beautifully executed. And St. Francis, just absolutely stunned right there virtually at the buzzer, 0.7 seconds remaining in that one.
So the long pass was intended for their big guy, and I don't have the roster in front of me, but he's from Tennessee, Mo. I thought he's a 6'10" kid from somewhere in Tennessee.
Oh wow!
For Alabama State, and he's a pretty good player. I like him. And the pass is intended for him, but of course he didn't catch it, and that's where it bounced off like 2 or 3 people and landed in the hands of their best player who laid it up and in for the winning basket. And I
but the moral of that story is sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
Yes. But here's what I respect. I respect the aggressiveness of the Alabama State coach for just not handing it off to a guard and have him dribble 3 times and throw up a half-court shot. It's not going to go in. That they tried to score. They were being aggressive, and I love that attitude.
They've got a few guys from Tennessee on their roster, Joe, but the guy that you're
51,
is it 25?
25, rather, yeah.
25. Just Stephen Walker from Fayette Ware High School over in Bolivar, Tennessee. So yeah, that's
him.
And this is interesting because Alabama State's coach is Tony Madlock, who maybe played at Memphis. I think he was on the coaching staff over at Memphis at one time or another, but certainly got some West Tennessee ties because the guard that scored, Amar Knox, is from Bartlett High School down in Memphis. Again, they've got the big guy that you just mentioned, Walker. His son, TJ Matlock, is a transfer from South Carolina State, but he's from Memphis as well. And then they've got a transfer from Walter State Community College up in Morristown, Micah Simpson. So Coach Matlock has drawn on his Tennessee ties quite a bit in building this Alabama State roster, looks like.
You can do well recruiting Memphis, without a doubt. And you should continue to do it.
You should be able to take care of business by doing that. Also, I found this nugget last night during the broadcast was kind of fun. Joe, Alabama State shoots 9 of 29. Not the best, but you could maybe perhaps argue that they were stroking, which bodes well. Found out last night, Clarence Carter, Alabama State alum of stroking fame. So it was only fitting. Let's get him in the crowd versus Auburn and really see what's popping. I was channeling a little Clarence Carter last night.
You are much more up on your alley.
Oh, that wins it.
Yeah, who's the mid-major geek here, huh? Who's the mid-major geek?
These things just come to me, man. I don't know what to tell you.
I will tell you what. If there is a list of most famous alumni from each of the 68 teams in the NCAA bracket, Clarence Carter is going to be tough to beat.
He's tough to beat, and 2 Chainz played basketball in the 90s at Alabama State was the other big thing. I'm not necessarily sure if Joe is familiar with the catalog of 2 Chainz, but
I'm not.
He played for the guys in the 90s.
That's 2 Chainz with a Z, by the way, Joe. So if you want to pass that along.
Yeah, that could be on your warm-up playlist for tonight's ballgame, Joe. We'll send something over to you.
Man, I don't know who I am more amazed by at this moment, Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media or Wade Neely of Main Street Sports Today, because they are both dropping the knowledge, and I almost feel like I should just go watch the ball game and let y'all go at it.
It was a Tuesday. When it's a Tuesday night, you don't got much going on in the first 4. You got to kind of see what's going on, and that was a big win for the Hornets, right? And the cool part is, I didn't know this, Joe, too, but there's a bonus for every tournament win, so they get a little extra cash in addition to picking up, that illustrious tournament victory. Thoughts and prayers versus Auburn, I suppose, but that's at least got them a little mojo, and that's kind of what the whole first 4 feels like it's all about, right?
The money's important to the school and the league, the SWAC. So it's an important win for both. So it's good to see.
It absolutely is. Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports Today. Joe, I don't know how much attention you got to pay to the events of last night here in this facility, but again, Tennessee Chattanooga in triple overtime defeats Middle Tennessee State in the opening round of the NIT, 109-103. And, when your team loses by 6 in triple overtime, you can't really be mad. That was just a hell of a ball game.
It was, and I had it on my phone in the stands at the UD Arena. So I saw all the second and third overtimes, and it was it was an incredibly close game. And the guy hit the big three for Chattanooga that really won it near the end. But individually, in his last game, Issam Mustafa, what do you have? He had the 30.
Yeah, he had a 30 to force the third overtime, I guess it was. Yeah. Speaking of striking, yeah. But I tell you, I was fortunate enough to be here. I got lucky to be here, and it felt like once Cam Weston fouled out that things weren't going to go well for Middle. Yeah, because he just put them on his back at times throughout the game last night.
So I ask you, as a fan of the Blue Raiders, how do you feel about their season? Where is it? How would you classify it?
I mean, you would like to have gotten into Saturday if you were MTSU, if you're an MTSU fan, but at the same time, this program wants to play for championships, I think, and I think they put themselves in a position to play for championships this time, and for the first time in a while. I think you have to feel good about this team. Now, you have to wonder how you're going to go about replacing a Justin Buford and Issam Mustafa, some of the folks that MTSU and Nick McDevitt have to replace, but you certainly feel better about this program right now than you did at this time last year, I think.
Yeah, look, an NIT is a good bid, is a good consolation prize. But I guess I would describe this season to me as good but disappointing, still slightly disappointing, because there were opportunities there for big wins that they just couldn't manage to get this season. That would have changed things dramatically. So it's if I was as a Middle Tennessee fan, I would take it, but not totally satisfying.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's kind of a glass half full type situation. I mean, you do look back at those two losses to a Louisiana Tech team that just seemed to have your number during the regular season, but you also got to consider the fact that you beat them when it counted most to stay alive in the postseason. So, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, I can't argue with what you said. I think that there was probably more on the table for this team, but I pleased but not satisfied. How's that?
Yeah, I think that's all right. That would work for me too.
And that's where I'm at too, because we saw over the course of the regular season they were dramatically improved, and they showed you the flashes of what they could be, which we hadn't seen, it felt like, at least for the last couple of seasons. But at the end of the day, when you're realistically talking about a one-bid league, which would you rather have? Would you rather have a 500 season, but then you go on a heater and win the conference tournament? I mean, that's kind of beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I kind of like the sustained growth, because in theory now you kind of, obviously as Mo mentioned, got to replace a lot of folks, but you kind of don't have to climb as high as you had potentially climbed from the start of this season. In theory, it should be a little easier going into next year. Well, and then you can make that run for a potential tournament bid.
Yes, it's what you said is all true, but this team with who they had on the roster, all these veteran players, a lot of them fifth-year seniors, that they really probably could have accomplished more. And he's got to replace just about every key player. Buford, Weston, Porter, Mustafa, all gone. So Kamara Lands, I assume, is coming back. So hopefully he can have an injury-free season and maybe do well. Maybe Chris Luke can take another jump as a big guy. But he needs to get into the transfer portal and find some guards, I think, for sure.
I think Jalen Counter is back, but yeah, you're right. That backcourt will need refortify, and you do, in addition to Chris Loof up front, you do have Torrey Alston coming back, who was one of the top freshmen in the league this time around as a redshirt freshman. So there's some pieces to build around for Middle, but at the same time, they've got some work to do this offseason, as you said. Joe, we mentioned Lipscomb as a possible North Carolina foe in the second round here. They've got to get past Iowa State up in Milwaukee first. What's your intel telling you as we're getting closer to that Friday tip-off between the Bisons and the Cyclones?
Well, two important things from the Iowa State point of view. So it is their second leading shoulder, Keshawn Gilbert, is out for the season with a groin injury. A lot of people noted that their coach waited until after the bracket came out to announce that.
Hey,
and
what else am I gonna do?
And
you just want to make sure you have all the information at your disposal before you finally, make a decision. Is the way I interpret that, right?
And their point guard, Bluesky, missed their last game against BYU, also with a groin injury. Ossenberger, the coach, said he's going to play, or should be ready to play, is what he said. But those are fragile injuries. So I think this is a beat-up team, Iowa State, that has, since February, their record is 7-6. They were ranked as high as number 3 in the country back in January. But when they come through February, they're 7-6. They're 3-4 in their last 7 games. It's a team on the decline. So this is where you see Lipscomb the opposite way, a team that's been on the rise and adjusting from an injury they had, makes it right for an upset, in my opinion. Now, what Lipscomb's going to have to do is overcome some physical defense that Iowa State's going to be playing to be able to run their sort of free-flowing offense. So I do think they have a shot based on the way circumstances shape up here.
How much boost, Joe, does Lipscomb get from the idea that every game could be Jacob Ognacevich's last game?
A boost, do you think? Yeah. I think I would say this. This is his audition. He has a year left, and he's going into the transfer portal. And this is his audition on the national stage to show the power conference schools how big he is. If he goes for 30, which he's capable of doing against Iowa State, then imagine what the offers that would come running in for him. So I think that's where the boost comes from, Mo, that this is a guy whose opportunity is there, and will he make the most of it? I think he's shown this season. When I actually thought this team was fading, and he put this team on his back and brought it to the Atlantic Sun Championship, he has had a nothing short of sensational season. And now he has at least one more game to show how good he is on a big stage.
Joe Sullivan of Main Street Media joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, as he is in Dayton for the first 4. Joe, we appreciate you taking some time with us this afternoon and look forward to catching up with you next week to get your read on where the NCAA tournament stands after 1 week. So looking forward to that.
We could be talking about Lipscomb in the Sweet 16 after they beat North Carolina. That's right.
There we go. I like that. Let's do that. Joe, we'll talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Joe.
Let's take a break here as it is halftime in the final Class 1A quarterfinal matchup with Harriman leading Wayne County 27-24. We're going to take a break as they take one here. We will return to Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia after this.
Only in Smashville are opponents welcomed with some good old-fashioned Southern hospitality. We'll give you a hand, cheer you on. Hey, we'll even leave a light on.
At Delta Dental of Tennessee, we know our success begins and ends with providing superior quality service, and that includes serving those who need it most. This year, we're celebrating 25 years of giving back to the community we call home. Delta Dental, along with our Smile 180 Foundation, supports Tennessee's dental colleges and oral health education, children's hospitals, free and reduced cost dental clinics, and other like-minded charities. Here's to the next 25 plus years of ensuring healthy smiles.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
Welcome back to the Murphy Center for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm Maurice Patton. That's Wade Neely. Again, we are at Murphy Center, site of the TSSAA Boys Basketball State Championships. And at halftime here in this Class 1A quarterfinal matchup, it is Harriman 27, Wayne County 24. Earlier in the day, we had Humboldt opening things up with a 54-35 win over North Green. The Vikings out of West Tennessee will take on defending 1A state champion Chattanooga Prep. The Sentinels with an 84-44 victory over Santa Fe in the second game of the day. That's Santa Fe with number 3 all-time leading scorer in the state of Tennessee, Alden Slaughter, who concluded his career with a 21-point effort. Unfortunately, he had to go 7 of 29 from the floor to get to 21. Tough day for him, tough day for Santa Fe. Chattanooga Prep looked primed to defend that 1A state championship.
Yeah, they looked very impressive, and I know Alden obviously would have hoped for a better showing, but he can rest easy knowing that he did the absolute best he could. The Santa Fe Wildcats as a team honestly did the best they could. They just ran into a dynamite team, a buzzsaw in some regards. And, I mean, that was in the very first round. It was a tough day, but they got nothing to hang their heads about. And, man, what a wild run it has been for that Santa Fe team. For the last 4 to 5 seasons, obviously the last 2 ending here in the Glass House.
Absolutely. Chattanooga Prep getting 24 from freshman point guard Cadence Collins, the coach's son, and 14 points and 8 boards from their Mr. Basketball finalist, Derek Roberson. So they move on again to a 9:30 a.m. Friday matchup with Humboldt in the 1A semifinals. The other 1A semifinal that will be played at 11 o'clock on Friday will be between Hillcrest, which defeated Pickett County, and my bracket has not updated. Wade, you got any idea? Oh, here we go. 56-39, Hillcrest the final over Pickett County. Pickett County with the third Mr. Basketball finalist in Jacob Amonette. But the Bobcats fall to Hillcrest, and so Hillcrest will meet the winner of Harriman and Wayne County. Harriman making its way back onto the floor, leading this matchup 27-24 as we head toward the third quarter here in about 4 minutes. As we mentioned, the Mr. and Miss Basketball Awards were presented last night over at the Tucker Theater here on campus. Alden Slaughter wins Class 1A Mr. Basketball, becomes the first in as much good basketball as there has been in Murray County for as long as there's been good basketball in Murray County. You wouldn't think that in 2025 Murray County is getting its first Mr. Basketball, but there you sit.
Mind-blowing, right? Like you said, been some great teams, been some electric players, and that's just kind of a head-scratcher in many regards, but well-deserved. Not just for his efforts in some regards, it felt like a career achievement award, but he's obviously been dynamite this season. And it felt like it's been his award to lose really for much of this year, but a crazy kind of mind bender, the fact that he does become the first from Murray County to pick up that award.
I mean, when you now the award only began in 1986. So, take Fred Jenkins out of the picture. Obviously, take Bernard Childress, some of those guys out of the picture. That was right around when Larry Marks, I guess, graduated from Columbia Central. And I'm mentioning a bunch of names that you're probably not familiar with. But it just feels like there would have been somebody over 40 years, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, congratulations to Alden for winning it, and again, for becoming the first from Murray County to do so. His counterpart in Class 1A on the Miss Basketball side will be plying her trade right out there on the Murphy Center floor next year. Blair Balkus from Wayne County was your Miss Basketball winner in Class 1A. Your full list, your Miss Basketballs in D2A, Halen Ayers out of the University School of Jackson, who was recently named the Gatorade Tennessee Player of the Year as well. So it's been a heck of a season for her. Mia Green out of Knoxville Webb is your D2 AA Miss Basketball. Again, Blair Balgus from Wayne County in 1A. Karina Bystry from McMinn Central was your Class 2A winner, playing for Johnny Morgan. We never did play that video.
No. It was I think the folks here at the TSSAA are hoping as many press conferences as possible transpire to kind of put that one further and further out of their memory from last week.
Jackson Southside Jaden Askins was your Class 3A, is your Class 3A Miss Basketball, and probably of no shock, Kimora Fields of Bradley Central is your Class 4A Miss Basketball. Best player on the best team.
Yeah, tough to argue with the logic for many of these recipients, but especially her, right? Best player, best team, kind of clear cut in some ways with Slaughter almost, like I mentioned. Kind of felt like it was inevitable as long as she got to the finish line with the games that she had under her belt and the numbers under her belt. It felt like it was hers to lose.
Mr. Basketballs in Division 2A, it was Goodpasture's Jaden Jones. In D2 AA, Fred Smith Jr. of Briarcrest is your winner. Again, Alden Slaughter from Santa Fe is your Class 1A Mr. Basketball. In Class 2A, Gatlinburg Pittman's Ty Glasper is your winner. 3A was Ty Cobb, Spikes Up from Upperman.
That dude is phenomenal, and he's only a sophomore.
You've seen him, haven't you?
He is as good as advertised. There is no doubt.
Okay. And Whitehaven's Taquez Butler, who you can see in action tomorrow night, is your Class 4A Mr. Basketball. So congratulations to all of those young men and young women for winning the biggest individual award in Tennessee high school basketball.
Worthy, everybody that was on that stage last night was worthy of being there, and everybody that won had a pretty doggone good case. Felt like the committee and the panel kind of got things right this year. That was a smooth ceremony, and everything looked like it went according to plan. Kind of to kickstart week number 2 of action here in the Murphy Center.
Exactly. The West Virginia governor is apparently suing the NCAA selection committee for not including the University of West Virginia, or West Virginia University, however they refer to it, in the NCAA field of 64. I wonder if he's going to sue Indiana as well.
He's suddenly got bigger problems, right?
Yeah. All of a sudden, the Mountaineers not making the field is the least of their concerns there in Morgantown, because Darren DeVries, after one season, has jumped out of Morgantown and into Bloomington, Indiana, as the successor to Mike Woodson at IU, Indiana University. Now, prior to his arrival at West Virginia, he had 6 seasons at Drake and been ultra successful over there. The Mountaineers, again, 19-13, and one of the last teams out of the field of 68. 150-55 with 3 NCAA tournament appearances in 6 seasons at Drake was DeVries. And again, I guess if you're Indiana, you're kind of looking, thinking, hoping Kurt Signetti 2.0.
Yeah, if you're Indiana, you probably had a dream list. And I don't necessarily know that this guy was at the top of your dream list, but on paper, looks like a guy that could come in. May not be the flashiest, may not have the sizzle, but getting major results at Drake, obviously, and then should be in the NCAA tournament this season. as we just kind of went over at length there with Joe just a moment ago. So he's on to bigger and better things. You could maybe even say, he started from the bottom, now he's here, having gone from Drake to Indiana. But be careful, folks, because we know how fickle that fan base could be. And they have kind of continued to slide in the Big Ten pecking order, especially with this recent round of expansion. IU is desperate to kind of return back to at least relevancy, and they certainly have bigger aspirations than that.
I also tend to hesitate to make any Drake references because he does have attorneys.
He could come for us, but surely I don't think that penetrates the walls of the Murphy Center. I think this is like international waters.
There we go. There we go. Big hire for Indiana. Tough loss for West Virginia. I wonder, Wade, if the fact that he didn't make the tournament made this an easier move for Indiana just from a timing standpoint. Trying to get somebody in there, not wanting to wait for somebody to get clear of the tournament before you mess with them.
Yeah, it kind of feels like, I have no inside knowledge on this, but it feels like it couldn't have worked out better if you're Indiana. If this guy is your target, magically they don't make the tournament, well, guess what? He suddenly becomes that much more hireable.
A little bit more accessible.
A little more accessible. You can kind of get the news out. We know, and we've talked with multiple guests that, timing is of the essence with a lot of these things in regard to getting your program on under your footing and kind of getting the transfer portal lined up. So that is a big win in terms of the timing, if nothing else, it feels like, for the Hoosiers here.
Speaking of coaching changes, a young lady who played on that very floor, I almost said not so long ago, but it's been about 30 years. Kelly Jolly Harper is back in business as the new women's basketball coach at Missouri University. Kelly off this past year after her dismissal at the University of Tennessee, where she was 108-52 in 5 years, with a couple of Sweet 16 trips, but she was dismissed after Tennessee went 20-13. Went 10-6 in SEC play, lost in the second round of the NCAA tournament to eventual Final Four team North Carolina State, who she also coached. But yeah, Kelly's back in business, and good for her, man. She spent 6-7 seasons at Missouri State, so she's familiar with the territory out there. She's going in there behind Robin Pinkerton and trying to reestablish that MU program in the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, it feels like a solid fit for both parties, to me at least. Feels like Kelly Harper gets in. You just rattled off her record at the University of Tennessee. That's good at almost any other school. You're not under a ton of pressure at any other school with a record like that. So expectations, coming back down a little bit, but having the experience of being at Tennessee is undoubtedly got to help them. As Mizzou, not necessarily what you think of in terms of just college basketball powerhouses. Only been to 2 Sweet 16s in their entire history and haven't made the tournament even since 2019. So to me, it just feels like perhaps a right fit for a right program and a right coach. And now we'll just see what happens. Still going to be awfully challenging, of course, in the league.
It's going to be awfully challenging, but again, Kelly coached at Western Carolina, again at NC State, at Missouri State, at Tennessee, 20 seasons, 393 and 260. So she's 7 wins shy of 400 for her career, 9 NCAA tournaments. Kind of got to stay close to the game this past year, working for the SEC network. So again, great to see her back in business, man, and looking forward to seeing what she can do over at Missouri in the Southeastern Conference. Hour number 1 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, is in the books. We will be back for hour number 2. After this break, we will get into the grab bag. We will catch up with Heather Williams, talking a little NASCAR. And it's Wild and Wacky Wednesday. Wade and I will close the show by giving you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the globe. Stick around for all of that after the break.
Hi, I'm Dr. Vilay Saisuka, CEO and founder of Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee here in Murfreesboro. We offer foot and ankle care from ingrown toenails to diabetic foot wounds. We also fix ankle fractures and things like that.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Hour number 2 of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, starts right now. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. Early morning baseball, yet again, if you're stateside, again, regular time if you're in Tokyo, but kind of felt like Groundhog Day a little bit because Shohei Ohtani hit another home run and the Dodgers won yet again, this time 6-3 against the Chicago Cubs.
Tough visit for the Cubs. They're probably thinking, why did we do this again? Going to Tokyo was one thing. Sure, it sounds good, but do we really got to play the Dodgers? They found out how good this team can be, and yeah, not we said it yesterday on the show, not necessarily an indictment of the Cubs, who still have some pretty high expectations, I think, coming in to the regular season here in the NL Central. But, coming back 0-2 is a little tough.
And again, much to friend of the show, David Wilson's chagrin, somebody with MLB apparently has posted that the Dodgers' magic number is 161.
It's getting closer.
Yeah. Again, 6-3, Ohtani and the Dodgers over the Cubs. I'm not sure, other than his 5th inning home run, what exactly there was to speak of, but there was plenty to speak of as far as he went. He reached all 5 times he came to bat, scored 3 runs. I'm sorry. In the 2 games, he reached base 5 times and scored 3 runs. That wasn't in today's game. That was just in the series. Tommy Edman also hit a home run, the first of the 2025 season officially. Sasaki made his MLB debut and walked some folks. First 4 warm-up pitches apparently were Nuke LaLucious. Uncatchable.
Not necessarily, a little bit of up and down, and that's the one thing that I am interested. And I was kind of fascinated by their approach. We saw limited innings, I think just 4, maybe 5 at the most for Yamamoto yesterday. We see just 3 for Sasaki. The Dodgers kind of treating it feels like, at least in terms of their staff, a little bit like an extension of spring training. Not necessarily, just 56 pitches thrown today. And as you said, 5 walks, eating up a lot of those pitches. So they probably got about as much as they wanted out of this series. I was hoping for a little more high-scoring game, but 6-3 for them, picking up the win, coming back to LA with 2 dubs. Good way to start the season.
No doubt. Now, I got to go back to Arizona, I guess, for a few days to get reacclimated and get, to the time change and that kind of thing before they start up the season. I wonder what it's like to start and stop and start again, as they and the Cubs will have to do. What kind of issue that provides, if any?
Right, and if you're Mookie Betts, we talked about who didn't play in this series. You're probably thinking, man, why did I have to come all the way over here? I got to go to Seoul last year. I'm cool with visiting Asia for now, but everybody else, you're gonna have to get reacclimated, kind of readjusted, and the good news is, them at least, being home to kind of crank things up. Not as if they're traveling take on the Mets to start the season, so they get a little travel relief there.
Probably not a shock to Astros fans, but it's been announced that Framber Valdez will be your opening day starter. I'm not sure who y'all take on opening day, but Framber Valdez will be on the bump for it. It's the Mets. Speaking of,
here they come.
Little interleague to start, which I guess with 15 teams in each league, somebody has to start with an interleague game. But it'll be the March 27th home opener against the Mets, and Valdez will be on the bump for the 4th straight year.
Take my chances with him going, whether it's versus the Mets or anybody, about as good of a shot as you can roll out there. They had pitching staff issues really all season last year, kind of snaked with some injury luck in that regard. So be nice to kind of see them get off to a decent start. You feel like the offense, even with the absence of Bregman and Tucker, you feel like the offense will find a way to kind of find its rhythm, find its footing. But it'd be really nice if the pitching staff could get started on a good note.
Absolutely, and you got a chance to get started on a good note with Valdez on the bump, you feel like. So nice call. I mean, I don't really know who your other options necessarily would have been to start opening day. Again, he started your last 3, did not give up a run in his first 2. Last year, he kind of got knocked around a little bit. 4 2/3, 3 runs on 5 hits.
Versus the Yankees, I believe.
Against the Yankees,
yep.
Yes. So tough outing last year, but I mean, still, this guy is pretty much nails. 7th in Cy Young voting last year, 15-7 with a 2.91 ERA. So, and he's got 68 wins in 7 seasons with the Astros. I didn't even realize he'd been there that long.
He's been kind of the hoss for a little bit, and also with Verlander gone, on the back half of the rotation, you lose a little bit. So you're hoping to pick up either one of 2 strategies, right? You feel like your front end guy's got to be lights out, or you got to try and build some depth and get some depth as you go along on that back half. So not necessarily saying one strategy is better than the other, but it'd be nice to come and start on a big note. 31 years old, like you said, got tuned up kind of a little bit at the start of last season, so I'm hoping bigger and brighter things are coming up entering 25.
Yeah. Braves hoping to recatch lightning in a bottle in the back end as they bring Craig Kimbrell back on a minor league contract. Should be interesting to see where he fits into this bullpen. I mean, you think that he's going to – obviously, you feel like he's going to help you. He's a 9-time All-Star. And there's no real reason to think that he won't. So, released by Baltimore late last year after blowing 6 saves in 29 chances, which means he's converted 23 saves. But apparently, Baltimore with higher aspirations, I guess. That was a little too murky for them. He is 36. He did have a 5.33 ERA last year. Iglesias obviously is set to close for the Braves this time around. But again, if Kimbrell is up to snuff, that's an arm that's going to help you somewhere.
Right, yeah. His best days are certainly behind him. But a guy that's got experience and still got a little gas left in the tank, surely you can find a spot for that guy. And if not, it sounds like, brought him in for relative peanuts, and so you can kind of evaluate accordingly. And you said, man, 36 feels like a little bit longer because he's bounced around, I guess, but had obviously some great times in Atlanta and, was absolutely nails there during some of that run. So maybe I wouldn't want to see this guy in the 7th inning.
No. Led the National League in saves 4 straight years while he was with Atlanta. He had 46 one year, 46 as a rookie when he won Rookie of the Year honors, 47 in 2014, had 50 in 2013. So, like you said, he's been with the Padres, Red Sox, Cubs, White Sox, Dodgers, and Phillies since leaving Atlanta. And again, you'd like to think that he would be at least serviceable in the Braves bullpen this time around. The Braves also signed to a minor league deal catcher James McCann, who was a all-star back in 2019 with the White Sox, has also spent time with the Tigers and the Mets. So, looking to kind of refortify that catcher situation while trying to get Sean Murphy back from, again, injury woes. So,
putting together some pieces, these aren't moves that are necessarily sexy. Not just going to light the headlines on fire, but it feels like the moves that you got to make. These are the type of moves that winning teams and successful franchises make, regardless of what sport it is. Whether they work out or not, who knows? But you don't really exactly, think about the New England Patriots in their heyday. I guess outside of trading for Randy Moss, you don't necessarily think about them making the splashy move, the splashy signing. These are the types of things that you kind of got to do to keep yourself afloat.
Yep. Speaking of staying afloat, Wayne County has rallied and taken a 10-point lead over Harriman, 51-41 with 5:14 remaining in regulation here. And I have to say, in regulation here.
Yeah, this building has been prone to extra basketball. This has been a wild game as Wayne County went on a 17-2 run not too long ago to really kind of surge back in front. But then Harriman scored 6 straight. There was a 1-possession game, and then poof, we blink, and now it's Wayne County who's made 3 of their last 3, and they're back up 10 with 5:14 to go.
Here we go. We mentioned the Mid-State Classic, the softball event taking place over at Ridley Park in Columbia yesterday. We mentioned that Columbia Central defeated Spring Hill 17-0 in 3 innings in the early game. In the middle game, it was Calhoun Community College out of Alabama defeating Columbia State 7-3. Well, in the nightcap, Tennessee run-ruled Eastern Kentucky. That's 7th-ranked Tennessee run-ruling Eastern Kentucky 8-0 in 5 innings. Sophia Nugent liked Columbia, apparently. 2 homers, 6 ribs in that 8-0 win for the Lady Vols as they improved to 26-4. Meanwhile, former Independence High School standout Ryan Brown had the walk-off hit. She had an RBI single in the 4th that extended the lead to 8-0. Well, it wasn't a walk-off. It was 8-0 in the bottom of the 4th. And then Eastern Kentucky was retired in the 5th, needing to score a run to keep things going. They were unable to do so. So Tennessee picking up the 8-0 5-inning victory. Carlin Pickens, 1-hit shutout there, 7 strikeouts in the performance. She has gone, here's an interesting stat, she has gone 71 innings without allowing consecutive hits.
That's dominant, right? Hey, I gave one up. Guess what? You're going to have to work twice as hard to get another one off.
That's all you're going to get. Yeah. Tennessee has now won 6 straight, and that was their 17th run rule win of the season. So Tennessee continues its dominance at the Mid-State Classic. That was their 7th win in as many games in Columbia. Next up for them is...
They got Arkansas this weekend in Knoxville.
In
luckily.
Knoxville.
Yep.
Arkansas coming to town for a 3-game series. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Wonder if that Monday game is on TV. Nope. Okay. All right. Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Arkansas taking on the Lady Vols up in Knoxville. Let's talk a little NFL real quick before Heather gets in here, because it appears Aaron Rodgers has been spurned yet again. This time by Minnesota, who has decided that J.J. McCarthy, they're going to roll with at QB1, and they're not bringing – well, they may bring a veteran in, but it's not going to be Aaron Rodgers apparently. So
I must admit, I'm a little disappointed because I wanted the full Brett Favre 2.0, Green Bay, New York, Minnesota. But, I mean, if Minnesota, that's if they want to spoil things, I guess that's their right. And, there were so many questions about McCarthy, both where they picked him, what his role would be entering this season. Then, obviously, the injury kind of made it a little bit easier for him. And there were some whispers. Is he still potentially even going to be the guy? Is he even going to be around? Maybe they shop him around, but it seems like this is at least somewhat of a step that it may not be necessarily McCarthy, but it sure won't be Rodgers.
Apparently, like. Yeah, that seems to be the case. you ain't got to go home, but you can't stay here. Yeah, which means
we've been down this road before.
We have, in fact. So, still apparently on Rodgers' dance card: Browns, Giants, Steelers, Titans.
Feels to me like it's down to Steelers or Giants at this point. All the kind of internal chatter out of Nashville seems like the Titans, who you can argue just as much as any of those other teams, desperately need an option at quarterback, but that may not be the option that they want for whatever reason. It doesn't feel like they're gaining steam. Randomly, the Steelers seem like they're a team that is, at least in the market for his services.
I think the Titans really are too far off for a Rodgers, given what he thinks he is and given what he brings to the mix, man. I don't know that the juice is worth the squeeze there, really, if that makes sense. I just think that they're going to be a young team. Go ahead and draft Cam Ward and get what you can get out of him and try to build a line around him. I think the best fit for Rodgers is going to be a team where he can play for postseason, because otherwise he's going to be more of a distraction than he's worth. That's just my opinion.
I'm kind of right there with you, and that was what the goal or the expectation was in New York. Scratch 2 seasons ago when he suffered that injury so early in the year, but last year, this was a team. Now, granted, it's in New York, so that was a little bit overblown, but they had bona fide expectations of getting to the postseason. Pittsburgh kind of does fit that criteria, kind of to your point there. And the Giants are not that far off. And I listened to a pod a couple weeks ago, and they were breaking this down. It's laughable in a sense that you think about how bad they currently kind of are, but they have some pieces. Especially along the defensive line with Thibodeau and those guys kind of being able to make some hay. It does not feel totally out of the realm of possibility that if you added a Rodgers and then maybe pluck in a piece or two here, a piece or two there, that they could at least be competitive for a playoff spot. Whereas, to your point, it feels like the Titans got a little bit more room to make, or a bit more ground to make up before they can kind of get in that ballpark.
Feels like the climb is a little higher at this moment for the Titans, even in the AFC South.
Yeah.
Speaking of Pittsburgh, though, apparently members of their front office met with Jalen Milroe prior to his pro day today down at Alabama. They kind of see him as a Justin Fields type guy and might want to get in on the ground floor with him, is what, word on the streets is.
I mean, and we just talked about bringing in Rodgers. No one's saying you can't bring in Rodgers and then still grab one of these guys, especially later in the draft, like perhaps Milroe. Everybody wants to talk about that mentor role. And, you know, as far as on the field and what he knows and what he's seen and what he's done, Rodgers is certainly capable of passing that wisdom on to the right guy, to the right franchise. So that'll be interesting to see. And Pittsburgh, man, it feels so far removed. Their offense, they have just been scraping by, and things have been just so ugly. They've still found ways to win games, but their offense has not been fun to watch, it feels like, for close to a decade. And if you solve the QB situation, maybe that kind of gets you in the right direction.
It's certainly not been fun to watch, and Steeler fans would tell you that.
Yeah, I mean, even the most diehard Steelers fan, and, you know, I got an uncle that bleeds black and gold, but or black and yellow, excuse me. I don't want to get that juju on me here. But, yeah, even the most diehards would agree. It'd be nice to not have to just scrap out a 13-12 win on a Sunday. Why can't we just do things a little more conventional and maybe get us a 21-10 type victory?
Absolutely. Let's take a break here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. When we come back to Wild and Wacky Wednesday, we will be joined by our NASCAR analyst, Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City. Talking a little Cup Series action. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Riley, a certified physician associate here at Premier Foot and Ankle Centers of Tennessee. We have a couple locations, Murfreesboro, McMinnville, as well as Franklin. We treat people of all ages. We're excited to get you back on your feet and hope we can help you today.
Call us today to schedule an appointment. We look forward to seeing you.
Because here at Premier Foot and Ankle, we believe that
the journey begins with happy feet.
You're seeing the signs too, right?
What signs?
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Wacky Wednesday continues here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. That's Wade Neely. I'm Maurice Patton. In our final segment, we will be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, wackiest, and most wondrous news from across the globe, so be sure and stick around for that. Right now, we have with us from WCYB-TV in Johnson City, Heather Williams, talking a little NASCAR. Heather, good afternoon.
Yes, and also representing the top baseball team in the state. Right there
how about that? We were
state champs.
wondering, we were wondering just what you would have to say about that outcome from last night with East Tennessee State picking up that 7-6, 10-inning win at Lindsey Nelson Stadium over the previously undefeated Tennessee with Volunteers. So big win for ETSU, obviously.
For sure. Joe Panucci's been the head coach there the same amount of time as Tony Vitello has been at Tennessee. They came in the same year. I remember it very well. He has really made that team a very good baseball team in his tenure. He's had several guys drafted by Major League Baseball clubs. He's got Landon Knack playing in the big leagues right now. They haven't really ever had that signature moment, like that signature win. They finished third in the conference several times in the regular season. They probably their best chance to win a championship was the year that Landon Knack was there. His senior year ended up being the COVID year. I think they had only lost one game when the season got called. So they've been building to this point, and they're a very good baseball team. They only lost 4 times previously themselves coming into the game last night. They played very close at Georgia last week. They played very close against Virginia Tech. So they had been in this environment. It wasn't too big for them. And then I went out to practice day and talked to Coach Panucci and the players. Neither one of them, they all believed they were going to win that game yesterday. There was not one point before the game, during the game, even when there was 2 on with 1 out or no outs in the 9th inning. They just always believed that they were going to win it, and they got it done.
Absolutely, they did. They were down 6 going into the 9th, scored a couple of 4th extra innings, and then got their 4th home run of the night to win it. So, again, big win, kind of come off the mat type situation for East Tennessee State there. And that's a type ball game that kind of turns some heads, gets some attention both in the college baseball world and in the recruiting world, I would imagine.
Yeah, and they've got a big series this weekend against Sanford. That's kind of the gold standard in the Southern Conference in recent years. Definitely one of the top teams. And it's at home. So expect a big crowd. And if they could follow that up with taking 2 out of 3 at home against Sanford to start the conference season, I think that this baseball team is in a really good place.
There you go. That's great. Hey, talk to us a little about Josh Berry.
Well, I also got to talk to Josh today. What a great win for him, right? A great win for your part of the state, for Middle Tennessee. Being a Tennessee native, Hendersonville guy. I mean, went to high school with Taylor Swift, went to the same high school as Joseph Newgarden. I mean, first of all, what is in the water out there? I mean, there have been some big stars that have come out of there for sure. And Josh is just a super laid-back, humble guy, right? So even talking to him about what is clearly the biggest moment of his racing career, he's like just really calm and cool about it. I mean, I think other people are almost more excited for him than he is, just because he has a level of expectation, but also he took a crazy path to get there, right? He was working in a bank. He started iRacing online. He was running the short tracks around here, but iRacing online, iRace against Dale Jr. Dale Jr. thought he was incredibly talented, offered him a ride driving his late models. Quit his bank job, packed up, moved to North Carolina, started racing late models for Dale Jr. Only thought he was going to be like the next great late model driver, right? Because he was pretty old by athlete standards when he got discovered. Won a late model national championship. Dale Jr. decided to give him a chance part-time in his Xfinity car. So he's going to run part of the season for a kid that was 17 and he was going to turn 18 in the middle of the year. Won races. Dale Jr. left him in the car the whole year. He finished, I think, 2nd or 3rd in points that year. That turned into some cup opportunities, turned into last year's opportunity, which made him a 32-year-old rookie, which you never see in cup anymore. Did all right. His team folds. He lands at Wood Brothers in 4 races into the year. He's a Cup Series winner. Pretty incredible.
That is pretty incredible. That was his 53rd start. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, last year's full season, he had a handful of starts this season before filling in for a couple of injured drivers at Motorsports.
Got to interrupt you just a second. Wayne County just finished off hasn't finished off because I think we're going to shoot some fouls, but had a breakaway layup here as the buzzer was sounding at the end of their win over Harriman, and a defensive player for Harriman shoved a kid as he was going up for the layup. So I think we're going to shoot some free throws here, but Wayne County is leading 61-55. There's no time showing on the clock, so
it's kind of like after a NASCAR race over here at the moment.
Yeah, there we go. It was very similar.
Tomfoolery after the buzzer.
Yeah, tough stuff. Kid for Harriman's being escorted from the floor by one of the assistants. Ace Jackson, their senior guard. I don't know if we're going to shoot these free throws or not, Wade. I mean, I don't know that they matter necessarily.
Yeah, no spread, baby. You can go ahead and get this thing over with.
Yeah, and it might be the best thing.
I would say so. Wild finish. Heather, I do want to ask you, how surprised, I guess, were either the insiders or just the NASCAR community, and kind of what was the reaction within the biz to Josh's win? Because just from where we sit, it seems like everybody kind of enjoyed and kind of celebrated his achievement this past weekend.
Yeah, the reaction is overwhelmingly positive, right? Everybody likes Josh. He's a great guy. And like I just documented, had an incredible story. As far as like the surprise level or whatever, I think people were surprised at how quickly it came together for him. But I don't think anyone was surprised that he won, especially when you consider how well they've run throughout the year, right? I mean, they were good at the Clash. They were good at Daytona. They were good everywhere they went. They didn't always have the finishes to match how well they were running, but he's been a top 7 car pretty much everywhere they've gone this year. So it was only a matter of time. It was only a matter of time before they found victory lane, but I think people were really happy that he found that victory lane, because he deserves it. Everything he's been through, as good as he's run, and also people are always just really excited to see a historic team like Wood Brothers back in victory lane, because they went through some tough times too. They got their 100th win last year with Harrison Burton, but it wasn't a great run with Harrison. And so to see them up front again, I think people are just really excited.
Is it, and also, obviously, the answer to the ultimate trivia question of who robbed Christopher Bell, of that 4th victory.
I think Christopher will be just fine.
I feel like he's going to be okay. What were some other big takeaways? We obviously saw the streak snapped. We obviously saw Josh win. What else stood out in your mind from race weekend?
There are a lot of guys up front, and some of them had to do with strategy, but these teams were running really well that you don't normally see up front. And so I think despite the fact that Christopher Bell won 3 races in a row, I think we might see parity once again in the garage area, because you had Daniel Suarez second, you had Ryan Preece up there, Ross Chastain, some guys that haven't been running up front recently at the end of races, and last year especially. So I think that's good. I think you're going to see maybe not necessarily always in the win column, but I think you're going to see a good mix of different guys up at the front. Like I said, some of these guys use strategy to get there, but then you have to stay there, and they did stay there. And so I was pretty entertaining from the fact of you really had no idea who was going to win that race until they got settled into that final run. And once Daniel and Josh sorted that out, you felt like as long as something didn't go wrong or there wasn't another caution, that Josh was going to win it. But the yo-yo-ness of the strategies of people moving up and down and through the field, and oh my gosh, this guy won the last stage, and now where is he? That's incredibly entertaining to me.
Also, to your point a moment ago, Sports Illustrated column earlier this week, after the Vegas win, it's clear this isn't your dad's Wood Brothers racing team. So, kind of speaking to your point, haven't got the finishes or the final results necessarily, but seemingly broke through for what has been a consistent start to the season, if nothing else.
Yeah, it's not your dad's Wood Brothers. It might be your granddad's Wood Brothers, because there was a time where they were one of the elite teams in the garage area. Their alliance with Penske, when they find the right driver, absolutely has paid dividends for them. They're a top contending team when they can find the right driver. And this is not really like a huge knock against Harrison. I think he was thrown into the car a little too early. I think he needed more time in the Xfinity Series. He is back in the Xfinity Series now, running up front. I think that will prove fruitful for him when he tries to make another attempt to come back to the Cup Series. But before them, they were a playoff team with Matt DiBenedetto. They were a playoff team with Ryan Berry. Just combined Ryan Blaney and Josh Berry's name with Ryan Blaney. So, I mean, they can run up front when they have everything right with the driver and the crew chief. And I think they got it right now. And I think that they could have a very long, successful run with Josh Berry because there's obviously he's not going to be moved. He's not being primed necessarily for a Cup seat. The three guys that are in for a Cup seat for Penske, the three guys are in the Penske ride. They're going to be there for a while. So I think this could be a several-year relationship where the Wood brothers could really start to really bear the fruit of their connection with Penske.
Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia, talking a little NASCAR. Heather, as we know, of the three of us, I am the least knowledgeable about NASCAR. Christopher Bell got sent to the back of the field to start this weekend because of a throttle body replacement. Is that right?
Yes. Several of the he wasn't the only one. I think there were two other Toyotas that had to replace Tyler Reddick and maybe Ty Gibbs or somebody. There were a few, yes.
Okay. So once you have qualified, if you change something on that car, you get put to the back. Is that the way that works?
Yeah. Once you qualify, the cars are what you call impounded. Most races, not all races, but this was one where they are impounded. Today, most races, they are impounded because there aren't a ton of practices like there used to be. And then there's only a few things that you can change after that. You can change some air pressures and a few other small things, kind of race specific. But yeah, something big like that, a big part. Once you qualify, if you make a change to that, then you have to go to the rear of the field because it's an unapproved adjustment.
And so this was one of those. Now, obviously, there's nothing that says he was going to win had he not been put to the back of the field. But he only got to 13th.
I don't think that's really what stopped him. He had raced his way into the top 15 before he had another issue in the race, which actually is something that a lot of people have talked about. He had a loose wheel, and if you leave pit road with a loose wheel, especially if it comes off, but if it's loose, you get a 2-lap penalty. You have to have 2 of your crew members suspended for 2 weeks. And so they realized that their wheel was loose, and he was pitting at the entry end of pit road. And so his crew chief came on the radio and said, get to a box. And so he pulled into his teammate Chase Briscoe's pit box, and Briscoe's team tightened his lug nut so that he did not go onto the track with a loose wheel. Now, he did get penalized for pitting outside the box because you're not allowed to pit outside your own box. But that penalty is only to the rear end, to the tail of the longest line. So he got to stay on the lead lap. He didn't lose his crew chief or his crew members for the next 2 weeks. It is literally one of the smartest things I've ever heard in my life. To be able to be that aware of his crew chief, realize that it's loose, that we can't leave pit road this way. For Christopher to be able to find his teammate's pit box because he didn't know where his teammate's pitting, right? So he's looking and he's trying to get over and he's looking and he finds the 19th pit box. Genius. Being in the back at that point is really what kind of cost him the win. But on the grander scale of where he's going to finish for the year, not losing crew members for the next 2 weeks, it may have saved a championship run for a season. So, I mean, just brilliant on their part.
What happens that you left with a loose wheel? Did you leave too quick? Did somebody think it was tight and it wasn't? How does that occur?
Yeah, generally you leave too quick. Sometimes there might be a malfunction with the gun and it didn't get it on super tight. Generally, the drivers, they will leave. Their cue to leave pit road is when the jack is dropped. So maybe the Jackman dropped the drag check too early because the rear tire changer was having an issue with the lug and couldn't get it on tight. What it happens more frequently than you would think, that getting those single lug nuts on to the gun is a little bit more difficult than on the previous ones where we were just hitting 5 lug nuts. And so you have to have the locking mechanism in there just right, or it will not tighten all the way. So there's a ton of things that could go wrong on a pit stop that would lead to a loose wheel. But the awareness to know that it happened, and in that short amount of time to problem solve like that, is unbelievable, and really what championship runs are made of.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. How much time are we talking to do that cost-benefit analysis? Because, I mean, it is a massive decision in seemingly a very short amount of time, kind of weighing all those options there.
5-10 seconds, maybe. I mean, they're rolling down pit road, and his crew chief almost starts yelling almost immediately. Gets on the two-way communication with the 19 team. Talked to Chase Briscoe yesterday. He was talking about he was so confused because all of a sudden his crew chief was yelling on his channel about a loose wheel. He's like, we have a loose wheel. Like, he was really confused because there's all this chaos, all this running around, and just in a split second. So, I mean, they probably made that decision and did all of that in 30 seconds. I mean, not a lot of time when you're rolling down pit road.
No. I mean, that and those decisions are always so fascinating to me because, yeah, everybody thinks see fast, drive fast, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes that has to be made in just as quick, if not quicker, time. So I'm with you. That's kind of a stroke of genius, the way it played out, really, in the grand scheme of things. And will be really fascinating, to your point, if we get late in the season and some few points maybe swing things one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, if he's 2 laps down, he finishes in the 30s. He finished in the top, I think, somewhere around 15, 16, 17. It's a lot of points at the end of the year, as tight as these as tight as these cutoff races are, both to get from round to round. A couple points could be all the difference.
Heather Williams of WCYB-TV joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking about NASCAR. We go to Homestead this weekend, right?
We do go to Homestead, back on the East Coast after the West Coast swing. Odd time of the year for Homestead for sure, but it should be fun.
What are you expecting? Who do you like? Well, we don't ask you who you like, but who feels like they've got a shot at winning this thing this weekend?
This will be a lot of the same players that were in play at Vegas because they're similar classification of tracks, right? They're 1.5 mile intermediate type tracks. Homestead is different. It's probably Homestead in Kansas are probably people's favorite by majority intermediate track because they have different characteristics. A lot of the tracks are kind of what they call cookie cutter, but this track specifically has progressive banking. So there's lots of different lanes that you can race around. You can rip around the top. You can run the bottom if you like to run the bottom, and different ways that you could win. But at least going into the weekend, I mean, again, none of us saw Josh Berry last week, right? So it's really hard to tell who's going to hit on something and show up. But going into the weekend, the same players that are always up front at these types of tracks where you would expect the Toyotas to be fast, the Hendrick cars, the Penske cars you would expect. And I guess Josh Berry is a satellite Penske car, so he could definitely be in the mix. But a guy like Tyler Reddick, who I believe won this race in the fall when they raced it down in the playoffs, this is a track made for Tyler Reddick. And so I would expect him in 2311, Joe Gibbs, to be among the favorites going into the weekend for sure. Then we'll see how practice and qualifying shakes out, see who else might have hit on something. But I would say Tyler Reddick, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, Chase Briscoe are probably the guys you're looking at going into the weekend as being quote-unquote favorites.
Heather, I got to ask you real quick. You mentioned his name. Is there anybody that has ever been more likely or more assuming to have won $200,000 on a slot machine than Denny Hamlin? If he was at the top of your list, who might have been at the top of your list?
Well, first of all, it's a shorter list, right? Because you got to have the kind of money he put into the slot machine as disposable income before you could win that. Because it was like a $3,000 slot machine or something. I don't know, it wasn't that much, but it was an insane amount to even play the slot. So, you have to have that first before you can win it. I don't know a lot of people that have that money. Other NASCAR drivers for sure could be in that realm of possibility. I actually have talked to a few people that got pretty lucky down in Vegas this week gambling from the NASCAR community. I got to convince a few of them to come with me to the casino here in Bristol because I never have that kind of luck.
Yeah, I need some tips from Denny because, that never plays out that way for me.
Oh, goodness. Heather Williams of WCYB-TV out of Johnson City joining us here on Main Street Sports today, talking a little NASCAR. Heather, as always, we appreciate it. Again, congratulations to your Diamond Bucks. We look forward to seeing you next week.
All right, we'll see you guys next week.
All right.
Thank you, Heather.
Hey, when we come back here on Main Street Sports today, it is Wild and Wacky. We are going to be bringing you the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest news from across the globe. And we got a special guest to help us do so. Stick around, and we'll tell you who it is when we come back.
Only in Smashville are opponents welcomed with some good old-fashioned Southern hospitality. We'll give you a hand, cheer you on. You suck! It's all your fault! Hey, we'll even leave a light on.
Forgot that. Hey, let's go Stros.
People are amazed at the variety and quality of guests we bring into Main Street Sports today. But when you've been in this business for nearly 40 years and you never throw away a phone number, it's pretty easy. Right, Wade?
Absolutely. And Wynn agrees with me. Check out some of our guests featured on Main Street Sports today.
Step back and catch my breath. But I expect nothing less from you, big boy. Let's get going.
We make it work pretty good. So
the fans are tremendous. It's fantastic.
It was really amazing.
They call it performance. Yeah.
From preps to pros, you never know who's going to stop by. So be sure to listen to and watch Main Street Sports today from 2 to 4 p.m. daily on the MSM TV app.
You hear me okay or not? Okay. There we go.
There we go. Welcome back to the final segment of Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. We're coming to you from the Murphy Center on the campus of Middle Tennessee State University, where we have completed Class 1A state tournament quarterfinal action with that wild ending as Wayne County defeated Harriman 62-55. They did put 0.4 of a second back on the clock. They did shoot free throws. Wayne County converted one of them for the 7-point victory. Again, the aggressor for Harriman was escorted from the floor. Heck of a way to go out for a senior, unfortunately. But we are joined here for the final segment of the show by Wayne County graduate, and hesitate to say this, Jacksonville State University Athletics Director Greg Seitz joining us live. And I don't know how you actually got into the building to start with.
Well, I've been up here a few times. I know how to kind of work my way in through the doors.
You see the way he prioritized your credentials there.
I did.
He was hesitant to slide that out. And I do. I'm wondering. Did you have to get on a list? Did you have to sneak in the back door? How does that work? Kind of stepping into enemy territory a little bit.
Yeah, I did come in on the lower level. That's
okay, crafty move. Well done, Greg.
Yeah, they probably got your picture up at all the major entrances. Greg, seriously, in all seriousness, our friendship predates your time at Jacksonville State, and so we have a previous relationship, I guess. So it's cool. But congratulations, you guys have had a lot of success this academic year. Had a lot of success last night, actually.
We did, yeah, man. It's a great time to be at Jack State. That's for sure. And trying to carry on the banner here for Conference USA, and as we go into the postseason. But I told some folks last night, I said if we shot as well as we did last night on Saturday, we'd be playing in the NCAA tournament and not in the NIT. Maurice.
Timing is everything, huh?
Exactly right.
Yeah,
Yes.
but you'll take the wins when they come, though. So who do y'all play next now after beating Georgia Tech last night?
So tonight is Northern Colorado and UC Riverside play each other.
Okay.
And if UC Riverside, who's the number 1 seed on that side of the bracket, wins, we'll go there. If Northern Colorado wins, we'll actually host that game. So, so a lot on the line for us.
How quickly can you assemble? Do you already have the plans and contingency plans to kind of be flexible to get both of those pulled off in short time?
We do, yeah. So I sent a text to our staff last night once we were notified that if Northern Colorado wins, that we would host, just to kind of get them on alert. The game is going to be Saturday or Sunday. It's crazy because they don't play till 9 p.m. tonight. So they told us it'd probably be 2 a.m. before TV and everything is set. So we wouldn't
And so
know
you
that till
told them,
late.
don't worry, just let me know in the morning and that'll be fine.
That's right. I told my staff I would not have a staff meeting at 2 a.m. So they were happy to hear that.
I was just going to say ratings might be through the roof in Jacksonville, Alabama for that game. Unexpected audience for folks trying to tune in who they're going to get and where the game's potentially going to be played, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. So, this is our first time in the NIT. So, and obviously being able to go into an ACC court like Georgia Tech, who's, been to several Final Fours and stuff and come out. I mean, they had a really good year, too. I mean, just the ACC. Certainly not like the SEC this year, but, they were 17-6 and 12-8 in their league. So, it wasn't like it was a team that, they were favored for a reason and hosting for a reason.
Well, you need Northern Colorado to channel a little Dalton Connect, I guess.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That would be nice. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then because we're obviously pretty tough on our home court at home. So it was funny the other night during the rain delay, Mo, when we were playing Liberty. I told the commissioner, I said, "Look, if we can't play, we'll be happy to host this championship game in Jacksonville.
Just take it over here.
We could go down there and get it in." But
Gym's open.
I think Liberty would have had something to say about that, I'm afraid.
I think they probably would have, especially given the success that you guys have had at home all year. But I tell you, if it manages to be Cal Riverside, I think y'all might have some fans on the other end of the state for that one, because we're going to kick off Wild and Wacky Wednesday here, the weirdest, and wackiest news from across the globe, from Mobile, Alabama, the South Alabama Jaguars were in the NIT for about an hour and a half this weekend.
Yeah, I tell you, that's a tough deal for them, because Richie, who's I've known from our Eastern Kentucky days, they get the call from Dan Gavitt and the NCAA folks and says, "Yes, you're in." And he said, "Are you 100% sure? Can I tell our team?" Yes, they do that. Then they get a call back in an hour and says, "Sorry, you're out." That's an emotional roller coaster there. And, honestly, you almost have to ask yourself, how does that happen?
How does that happen? Well, apparently there was some sort of clerical error involving UC Riverside. Somehow, because Riverside tied for third in the Big West, they got that opening into the NIT rather than South Alabama. And apparently it had been reported at some point that Riverside had turned down the NIT, but their AD is saying that they found out that they were in when everybody else did, when the bracket was announced, after having previously committed to the CBI.
Yeah.
And so they were given the ultimatum: you can either go to the CBI or you can come to the NIT. They chose the NIT. Meanwhile, while all that was going on, South Alabama had been told they were in, and now they're out.
Yeah.
And that's gruesome, man. For that coaching staff, for that personnel, for those kids who think they're going to get at least one last chance to play together, and now all of a sudden they don't.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and it's not like you can just add another team, right?
Right.
So, it's not. It's like, okay, somebody is in, somebody's out. So, I can assure you there'll be a lot of discussions at the end of the tournaments as they do their post-tournament wrap-up to ensure that doesn't happen again in the future. You recall a few years ago, I think South Carolina, it seemed like they got a Teamworks notification where they were in on the men's side, and it was actually USC out in California. Southern Cal.
Classic mix-up, though.
USC West.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Oh, yeah.
That is tough. And like Mo said, you're kind of hanging on to the screen, are we going to get another game? Will I get to put the uniform on? Man, that is a tough situation.
And I tell you, it's different too because so you don't have a selection show or anything. You just find out on Twitter. I mean, it was released or X. I'm sorry. So it was released on social media. Like we didn't get a call or an email. We followed along on social media just to see, where we were going and stuff. So it is a little unique and different.
Very unique and different, and very unfortunate for South Alabama.
Oh, it is. I mean, they got a great program. I know I've got a lot of friends that are down there. Just very, very unfortunate, that it happened. And I don't think they accepted a CBI or any of the other ones either, to my knowledge. So, yeah, you do really feel bad for those kids and staff and administration.
March Madness is here, obviously, and that's pretty special time for a pair of basketball players at Baylor University, Jeremy Roach and Dariana Littlepage Buggs, because for the second year in a row, they are lining up with Raid, the bug spray. On some NIL. Baylor basketball's Jeremy Roach and Dariana Littlepage Buggs star together in a commercial for the brand as members of Bug U to highlight Raid and Roach Killer's 13-week protection. Jeremy Roach is a transfer from Duke and a member of the men's basketball team at Baylor. And Dariana Littlepage Buggs, again, I've always been serious about defense, so partnering with Raid felt right. It's been a blast to be part of something that ties basketball and my name to keeping bugs out. Because let's be honest, there's only room for one Bugs in this game, and it's spelled with 2 G's.
That's NIL doing its best right there, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, I think that's what it's supposed to be all about. We talked to James out of Cleveland yesterday of Sports Mom U, and these type of connections and networks and that kind of thing that are naturally, organically developed like that kind of feels like you said, NIL at its best. And so congratulations to Raid and to Jeremy Roach. I've always gotten a lot of attention for my name, so teaming up with Raid felt like a fun way to play into it even more. It's been fun connecting defense on the court with keeping unwanted roaches out of homes. Plus, it's not every day you get to remind people that some roaches are actually welcome, just not the kind Raid takes care of. So, good stuff from both those Baylor ball players and taking advantage of a natural hookup there.
It is, and honestly, I mean, that's truly what NIL is supposed to do, right? I mean, that's what it is instead of the pay-for-play or whatever. These are the type of opportunities that kids ought to be able to accept and stuff. And so I'm certainly very happy and thrilled that the kids are able to do that. So now if we can just get a handle on the transfer portal, then I think we can kind of
that's a whole show wild and wacky to try and wrap our brains around that, right?
Very wild, very wacky. That's going to do it for Wild and Wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports today. As we come to you from the Murphy Center here, we have started the first game of the Class 2A quarterfinals. It's Loretto and Liberty Creek, and we'll let you know how that one comes out tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Be sure and join us. We will see y'all then.